everyone, welcome to Learning the Right Way. My name is Stephanie Adams and I will be facilitating this workshop. Learning the Right Way is designed specifically for student affairs professionals at Wright State University. I hope that this is an informative and helpful experience for all of you. Here are the learning objectives that we hope to accomplish. At the conclusion of this workshop, participants will be able to explain the learning process and the importance of retrieval, differentiate between poor and effective learning strategies, and create a plan that includes students, faculty, and staff to better the learning process at Wright State University. We will revisit these objectives again at the end of the workshop. Let's get started. Many of us have our own ideas of how we learn best, but it's important that we take the time to look deeper at the learning process, and today that's exactly what we're going to do. Because we work at an institution of which the sole purpose is to foster learning, it's important to understand best practices. If we do this, Wright State will be on the right path to success. With just a few clicks, students have unlimited access to tips and tricks for successful learning, or so it seems. Little do they know that the advice from instructors, parents, the internet, and other seemingly reliable resources has left most individuals with misguided ideas of the best practices for learning. Think about the number of times you've heard these study tips. If you read over the material enough times, you'll learn it. Rewriting lecture notes over and over will help you learn the material. Focus on your own learning style. Cramming the night before an exam will help you remember the information because it'll be fresh. When teachers help students learn faster and easier, the learning is better. Practice, practice, practice. If you concentrate on the material without distractions, it'll help you learn. Chances are you've heard these pieces of advice quite a bit throughout your academic career, and maybe even after. Unfortunately, none of them are conducive to the learning process and will not lead to much success. Nevertheless, these are the study methods that college students are following. So, how exactly do we learn? Retrieval is the final and most important step to the learning process. However, it is commonly thought of as solely a way to test the success of learning after the fact, rather than a part of the procedure. If the retrieval step is missed, underutilized, or misused, learning can be ineffective. Here are the complete steps to the learning process. When you initially absorb the information you wish to learn, the brain creates a mental representation of it and stores it in short-term memory. This typically occurs at the time of the lesson in the classroom and is called encoding. After the mental representation has been created, the connections between the material and the brain strengthen, and the information eventually moves from short-term to long-term memory. This can occur when you reflect on the information you've learned. The last part of the learning process is retrieval, which is when the brain uses external or sensory cues to recall information from long-term memory. You can practice retrieval by going through flashcards, frequent quizzing, or writing a short essay. Instead of thinking of retrieval as a traditional college exam that tests learning, think of it as an engaging tool that can be used throughout the learning process. When used correctly, it can solidify material and increase retention. Now that we know how the learning process works, let's identify some effective learning strategies that are conducive to this process. It's important to remember that effortful learning is effective learning. Don't get discouraged if something is difficult. That means you're learning. Creating a study schedule with short, spaced-out sessions is better than one long session or cramming the night before. When you give the brain breaks, it will begin to forget material and will use more effort to recall the material later. This is great for retaining information. Mixing up the material you're studying with different subjects and topics is good for learning. It is more effortful and helps you identify the differences rather than just the similarities between information. The more hands-on experience you can get, the better. It is always great for learning when you can apply what you've learned in the real world. Once you initially absorb information, a great retrieval tool is elaboration. Peer teaching, short essays, concept maps, and other elaboration methods help you identify what you know and allow you to connect it with other knowledge and situations. Calibration is using your observations of others to gauge your own knowledge, skills, and abilities. This allows you to become more self-aware, realistic, and unbiased during the learning process. Reflection is one of the best strategies for successful learning. Learners can think about what they know, what they've done, and how to improve in the future. If learners engage in these retrieval-centered strategies, the learning process will be more successful. Not only is it important to use effective learning strategies, but learners must also have the right attitude or be in the right mindset in order to be successful. World-renowned psychologist Carol Dweck has done extensive research on student success. One of her theories that is heavily rooted in scientific evidence is the difference between fixed and growth mindsets. Individuals can have one of two distinct mindsets when it comes to their abilities and talents. The fixed mindset is held when one believes that their intelligence is predetermined and unchangeable. In a growth mindset, individuals believe that their abilities, development, and intelligence are changeable. Characteristics of those with a fixed mindset are worried about how smart they are, do not overcome poor performance, run from their mistakes, value ability praise like, "You're really smart," feel dumb when things get difficult, weaker academic performance, more susceptible to aggressive behaviors, and harbor conflict. On the other hand, characteristics of those with a growth mindset are stronger academic performance, persistence through difficult tasks, detect, process, and correct errors, value process praise like, "You worked really hard," better engagement and problem solving, stronger personal relationships, lower stress, depression, and overall better health, and positive attitudes. This mindset theory has been tested in various scenarios, including baby praise, 7th grade academia, pre-med student achievement, teen aggression, and even Middle Eastern conflict. All studies showed the same results, that if the subjects believe that they have the opportunity to change and develop their own abilities, they will find higher rates of success. While colleges and universities pride themselves on enhancing student learning and success, there are many long-standing bad habits that must be broken. All too often, students feed into the misconceptions of learning, stick to the easy route, or give up when things seem difficult. Students need to understand and take ownership of the learning process and engage in effective strategies that are going to lead them towards success. The traditional college course is structured in such a manner that sets students off with an immediate disadvantage. Lecture hall classes, Scantron questions, midterms and finals, and other methods used by faculty are the exact opposite of productive methods for learning. Changing the structure and environment of the college classroom is an important step the faculty should take to increase academic success. We often forget that there is a great deal of learning that occurs outside of the classroom. Student affairs practitioners are often responsible for these opportunities on a college campus. Staff must take the learning process into consideration when designing co-curricular experiences, collaborating with faculty, and working with and advocating for their students. Let's review. We know about the learning process. We know the differences between effective and ineffective learning strategies. We know how all of this applies to higher education. So what now? How do we take action? How do we implement what we've learned? Student affairs professionals are in a unique position. We directly interact with students and support their holistic growth and development. Although there is a noticeable gap between academic and student affairs, we have the opportunity to collaborate with faculty to cultivate student learning. We also have the opportunity to create departments, programming, positions, and other resources that are necessary or advantageous for the students. Student affairs practitioners can be the driving force behind a new initiative to increase achievement on college campuses. I'd like to challenge all of you to create a 3-step plan to benefit the overall success of Wright State University. Step 1 is to engage the students. Educating college students about the learning process and instilling in them healthy and helpful learning and study strategies is extremely important, but easy to do with the help of first-year experience courses. Continuing to facilitate workshops and programs that will engage students in these types of learning activities throughout the college experience is also beneficial. Encouraging students that they have the opportunity to increase and change their abilities can be valuable for students in higher education. Growth mindsets in students can lead to higher self-esteem, perseverance, self-awareness, and academic success. The job as a student affairs practitioner is to advocate for the students on campus. What better way to demonstrate this than by expanding their learning capabilities and cultivating academic success? Step 2 is to engage the faculty. If we help faculty understand the true learning process and steer them away from traditional classroom environments, we can increase academic success for our students. While some professors are engaging, dynamic, and understanding of how learning works, some are research-focused, old-fashioned, or not natural instructors. We can be the bridge between the students and the faculty in these scenarios. Some suggestions for faculty may be using peer instruction or creating flipped classrooms where students read or review lecture notes outside of class and engage in homework-style activities while in class with peers. Replacing lectures with meaningful discussions or hands-on experiences would help students apply what they're learning. Students should also be encouraged by faculty to reflect at the beginning and the end of every class, which can be facilitated in many different ways. If student affairs professionals can work jointly with faculty, not only can we accomplish student success, but we can also help bridge the gap between academic and student affairs. Step 3 is to engage ourselves. Not only should student affairs professionals be using the material from this workshop in their interactions with others on campus, but we must also incorporate some items into our own professional practices. We need to always recognize that difficulty is a positive when it comes to learning new things. Embrace changes and challenges head-on in order to conquer them successfully. Growth mindset workshops not only can be beneficial for the students, but also as a professional development tool for staff and faculty, as the theory has been tested across many situations and proven effective. Reflection is another practice that we should all implement in our personal, academic, and professional lives. As professionals, it is important to think back on what we've done, critique our actions, and envision what we can do better in the future. Individual employees, teams, and full departments should practice continuous assessment in order to reflect on their impact, success, and efficiency. Student affairs professionals should also reflect internally to ensure that you are doing everything that you can to be a productive member of campus. In conclusion, I'd like to reflect on our learning objectives once more. We've discussed the learning process and the importance of retrieval. We've explained the differences between poor and effective learning strategies. And we've provided the tools and examples for creating a plan that can better the learning process at Wright State University. This is not a single-person operation. To reach holistic achievement, we need the entire campus community with us. But if we educate and encourage everyone on campus to learn the right way, we can thrive as a university that fosters outstanding success. If you'd like to read more on this topic, here are a few fantastic resources that you can look into. I really enjoyed being able to share with all of you. Thank you so much for your interest in this workshop on learning the right way. I hope all of you have a great day, and go Raiders!